Hello and welcome to the Dota Club Podcast. I'm your host, Krabby, and I'm here with. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Nah, you can introduce me.
Dude, I had a whole bit where I was
All
gonna be like,
right. I'll
nah,
introduce
you can do
myself,
that.
bro.
Yeah, introduce yourself. Let me
All
run my bit.
right. Hello, it's me. I'm Pine. I'm here
That's
with
not your real
Krabby.
name. That's not your real name.
That's not my real name. You can dox my government name right now.
I'm good. I don't really have the right to do that. But anyway, today on
Okay,
the
thank
Dota
you.
Club Podcast, we're gonna talk about buybacks because they're really important. And even sometimes I know they're important, but I don't save for it because it feels really fucking good to just like buy out your data list. You know what I'm saying? Do you empathize?
Um,
I'm not saying it's actually good. I'm saying sometimes I know I should save for buyback. It's like post 25 minutes, like you should
we're
start
we're
saving
just
for it
straight
early.
we're straight into
It's
the
an extra
buybacks
leg.
here. Yeah, no. I always save buyback. I'm really disciplined. My
Grappa?
teammates always throw, and they all buy back, or they don't have it. So no, I
Not
don't save
having
buyback. I don't save
yeah,
buyback.
well enough. No, because I mean
It
we play together
depends.
and sometimes you do. Like it's obvious to do it like post 40 minutes, but
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
in a lot of my games it makes the difference if you have it like post I want to say like 25 even. Because especially against like pushers, games can get blown wide open pretty quickly.
I thought this was like gonna be like a buyback bit because you just like went straight into it, but we're just talking
No,
about
no, I just
buybacks.
wanted to talk about
I
buybacks.
see. No, I
You
don't
want to change the
save.
topic?
No, it's good. Okay, I agree with you where post 40 minutes, it's really obvious, but where it's really difficult is like 25, 30 minutes where your item progression isn't that far along, right? Like you have like two, one and a half, two, maybe three items, depending on the role, right? Like if you're carry,
Yeah,
you're gonna have
no,
like three items.
exactly. No, it
And
feels so awkward because a lot of carries have like this 3 item timing, and you're on like
yeah,
2.5, and I'm like, oh, should I save for
exactly.
buyback
That's what I was
now
gonna
or like
say.
finish my item and get on my timing? So I think it depends because like if you're ahead and the chance of them like threatening to end the game is like pretty low, then I think
Yeah.
finishing your timing, if you have a big timing, if it's like butterfly on anti-mage or like ags or whatever, then I think it's worth
I
finishing.
agree. The evaluation is if there's threat to your base, right? If you lose situations, and because there's the opposite where in a lot of games people have buyback, and since you have buyback, you like want to use it, right? So there will be a fight. And you'll have buyback, and then you'll die, and you'll be like, "I got buyback, guys! I fucking buy back!" Like I TP in, and you're buying back for like the most garbage dog shit ever. And it was like you could have just waited 50 seconds and then fought again, and then people
Yeah,
spend their buyback. So that's also like a plague where this happens a lot as well, like in very intense games where you just want to end, where you'll like go for their you'll like be pushing their high ground or something, and you'll die and buy back and be like, we can just end. Like maybe they spent buybacks or something, and you'll just buy back and
yeah.
try to push. But you could have just waited 50 seconds and then done another fight with the buyback, right? Um,
Yeah, what makes the difference maker there as well is if you have something to TP2,
mhm,
which I've had
sort
multiple
of.
instances where well, if you have like their outpost, it makes it a lot better than if you don't. It literally removes like 20 to 30 seconds. So that definitely plays into the decision, but I've just had some traumatic times where we haven't had their outpost and I bought back and the closest thing I TP2 is like RT2, right? If you're Radiant pushing Dire Base, like RT2, but then I'll misclick and I'll click like our outpost. So then it'll be like
Yeah.
a 5 second TV to the outpost, and I get there and it's just too late. But I think after like making this mistake, like buying back when I shouldn't, we've both had games I think where we've like both done this. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's as much of a plague as not saving for buyback because it's like too much on the other side, or
I
like
don't I disagree.
I don't
I
notice
mean,
my
it's not as
teammates
much of a
doing it.
plague.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
nobody,
I don't
my
notice
teammates
anyone
don't
else
buy
do it.
back.
I do it.
I do
I'll
it.
buy back and feed and like throw the game, but I don't notice like
I think
teammates
it's
doing
more
it.
heinous because it gives them an opportunity to win the game. And I
Yeah,
think
they just kill you.
that's the big deal, because if you just waited 50 seconds and didn't buy back and fought again, you just get another try and there's no win condition for the enemies. They're still in a disadvantageous position, right? But if you buy back and go fight and die, then they actually have an opportunity to win.
Yeah,
And another thing about that, about buying back, I think this is another important one, is even if you can get to the fight, an important part is the fight going to continue if I buy back, right? Like if I buy back, are they just going to retreat into their base? And I don't think it feels good to buy back and like, okay, let's begin sieging again, right? I
well,
think
it depends. If they have 2 to 3 important heroes dead with no buyback, and you have like four
sure.
heroes alive, then you go end. But I think if you're doing this like risky play we're talking about, you have to be like pretty sure that you're going to get megas or the game's going to end. Like you have to be like above
That's
80 to
yes.
90% sure.
But I'm saying in the case of buying back for a like for a fight rather than to
Like
like end the
outside of
game.
their base.
It doesn't have to be outside of their base. I just mean that like if you're trying to buy back to influence a fight, like your buyback's going to be the difference in winning a fight or not. Because like it's obvious, like okay, if their whole team is dead and you buy back like to end, it's like okay, that makes sense, right? But in that case, your buyback also like wasn't the difference maker.
Well, it depends.
It
I mean, if you're the carry and like your mid plus
you do
one
the
support is
damage.
dead and 3 of their heroes are dead, then you buy back, buy bots, TP in, get megas. That's when it feels the best. But or like
Yeah,
if it's for Roche, I feel like it can be good,
I just
but
think
it's
it's
a
easy
little bit
to
sus.
buy back. Okay, because like especially if you're a hero that can get like because when I buy back on mid, it's not really as much for like sieging their base. It's to like influence a fight because I'm like bots or I'm Ember and I have a remnant down and then I die, buy back, come back to the fight. And
Yeah.
in those instances, I think it's important that you can catch the enemy team, right? Like they can't retreat. I think that's very important because there's a lot of times you buy back, and even if you kill like a support or two, like that wasn't worth it. Even though like then that maybe transitions into you like sieging tier fours and like the possibility of getting racks, and that sounds good. But I've had situations like this where I'm the strongest hero in the game and I buy back and I get I get all my dopamine because I buy back, I remnant in, oh I'm fucking
You
killing
get
all the
two like
supports.
useless kills like
Let's go.
Rubik and Hoodwink, you
They're
know.
dead, they're dead. And
Your
then
team gives you like well plays, they're like glazing you.
exactly. And then I get a racks, which
They
sounds
have a
great,
huge window to just win the game then,
but
right?
then like like when you're the strongest hero in the game, your buyback is also the most important thing in the game. Because that's the only way you lose if you're the strongest hero in the game, right? Is like your buyback like it defends your base.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen a lot where like I've had games that were like very solidly won and I get over anxious or over eager to end the game and I spend my buyback and it gives them an opportunity. Whereas it's less, there's less dopamine or it feels like it's weird because you don't want to like be soy and like not take the opportunity to end, but
Yeah. I feel like
you had
at
an
least for
yeah,
me to like make the correct decisions about buybacks, it's taken me to like overstep the boundaries a few times and like ruin the game or
sure.
like lose some
I think it's
games
better
where
to
we're like
like
fighting their
learn that way.
base. You need
Yeah.
to it's like diving towers or something or like getting kills in lane. You need to like overstep your bounds a little bit to really get comfortable with it.
I think an important point about it is there a or is there some sort of time crunch where you have to do this now and you waiting to respawn and going again won't cut it, right? Because it's not just like, oh, but like they have a couple heroes dead, like we could do it now. It's like if you're in a state of advantage, let's say you're winning the whole game, you're up like, 15, 20K net worth. Is you buying back to end right now because they have like some supports dead or something more advantageous than just waiting and fighting again with a buyback and not because you're giving them a window to win. You're giving
Yeah,
them a
no,
chance to
exactly.
win,
Which is why
right?
I think if you're doing it, you have to be like pretty sure you're gonna win, you know?
Yeah. Buyback's hard. Buyback's really, really hard. I
Yeah, it's also
really
just so much gold, which is like annoying. I guess that like brings us back
Mhm.
to the first point we were talking about. All right,
I
so
I think
we've been
that
talking in circles
well,
about this for a little bit. Oh, did you
yeah,
have something
okay.
you wanted to say?
No, I was gonna say that rather than the point about spending buyback, like I think that is a harder evaluation. But I think like the one that's super relevant is saving the gold for buyback because that happens like every game, and you have to make that decision pretty much every game around the same time, like 25, 30 minutes. And it always happens where it's like in the way of your item spikes, and that's really difficult
Yeah,
to deal
no, it
with.
does. It's usually pretty good to save for buyback though. Like your life, an
Mm,
extra life
I
is
mean,
worth
sort
more
of.
than a second item, at least for carry.
It's just hard because like
If you're behind, and it because if you die
yes,
without
because you're
buyback, they can get like 2 racks
okay.
just
But
for
what
free.
about if you're ahead?
Even if you're ahead, I mean, it depends on your buildings and like how fast they push. But
Okay, but
I
like what if
think
you're like T1s
most
are up or some
games
shit?
it's generally like pretty good to save for buyback. You know, okay, if your
Yeah.
T1s are up, you probably won 3 lanes and you're stomping the game, and it doesn't really
Okay,
matter
but
when you
but
don't
in
have
that
to.
case, if your T1s are up, you can TP to the T1s and like fight, like be back in the fight, right?
That's true. I mean, you could, yeah,
I don't know. All right, it's
you could do
inconclusive, I
that. Yeah,
suppose.
yeah, you could.
Yeah, buy out,
I mean,
guys.
I've just
Buy
ruined
out.
so many games by buying out. So like, just or the threat of buyback is also like more important than like actually buying back a lot of the time. Or like
Uh,
it's like insurance, you know?
Yeah.
Like chances are they're not like, okay, let's do the scenario that you said. All your T1s are up, you're ahead. You die without buyback for like 80 seconds because you're high level. They have like a Luna and like a Lesh or something. There's a small chance that they just like run it down mid and like potentially end, to be honest, or like take a lot of racks. And if you have buyback, it just like prevents against that happening. Yeah, the chance is really small,
I
but
don't
it
think they
could
would end
happen.
though, right? Like you're gonna get like fortifies off your towers
Well,
dying.
but but they take a racks. That could happen if you're dead for like 80 seconds. You're the
Sorta,
strongest
yeah.
hero in the game. That could
Yeah,
that
yeah,
could happen definitely.
yeah.
And chances are all your T1s aren't up.
But
So
then
it
then again, that's so hard because then do you spend your buyback to defend your racks and you're the strongest hero in the
yes,
game, and then they can kill you and win.
but that's chill. I mean, in this hypothetical, you're like so ahead. I think losing a rack, especially if it's mid, like can be pretty. I mean, it's devastating. Everyone watching this knows how devastating it is. It gives them so much gold and like your lane's pushed in. It's fine. You
Yeah,
just buy
yeah.
back and you like chill for a bit. But
That's
that's
true.
like
That's true.
them taking a racks is also like a route for them to get back in the game because they don't have to like push out mid.
That
know?
also okay, that's also relevant about chilling for a bit because I feel like a lot of times you'll spend buyback. An important point is you spend buyback and you get something immediately with the buyback, like the fight or whatever. But if you don't, you can just wait 7 minutes for another buyback,
Yeah, it's
right?
fine. And if you're
And
ahead, you just farm and control the
I
map,
feel like
play on wards.
there's like a mental fallacy that people fall into where you spend buyback, and I think when you spend the buyback, you want to get that thing off the buyback immediately. You don't want to like spend your buyback and then you fight in 3 minutes because now you're just fighting without the buyback. Like you could have just waited to respawn, right?
Yeah,
But that
no,
happens a lot where
exactly.
you bought back and then the fight disperses and they retreat because you bought back, and you're like, go fight, and then you die and you threw the whole game. So no, I think when it comes to buying back, it's pretty relevant about like it needs to be like a gotcha. Like they're surprised by your buyback and your teammate catches them, they can't run away.
Yeah.
I don't think you
If you
buy
have
back and
bots,
then
it
do
really
something.
helps.
Yeah,
Bots helps.
kinda. I mean, to get to the fight, sure, but I don't
Okay,
think the
if
bots is what's catching them.
if 2 or 3 of their team has no buyback and I can buy back as carry and like take racks, like
I
get
don't
megas,
think
I will do
I
that.
don't like this example as much as because that's at that point you've already won the fight, right? Um, I think the more common scenario that's more applicable is if your buyback turns a fight. That's a harder decision because yes, if the enemy team's dead and I can buy back to push, that's an easier decision than like me winning a fight with my buyback. My buyback's the difference
A
maker to
lot of
win
the
the fight.
times it's not that concrete though. Like the fight will be like even. So like picture on my team like
Exactly.
I'm dead as a carry and like a support is dead. And then on the other team it's like they're mid plus like one support is dead. So it's like kind of even and then my buyback is the carry makes like we won the fight because I'm alive. So because I buy back, then like we have the extra hero. We can like go in their base and do things.
Sorta. I mean, that one's not free though. Their carries alive, et cetera, right? Like that's
Yeah,
more a
okay,
kit.
no, I'm also assuming the dead people have no buyback. And maybe this example was a
I
little
know.
bit too like solidified.
Yeah. I mean, that one, I'm saying that one is more, that's less easy to like push their base than, like if they, because in your example, it's just like, oh, we just like push an end. But if they're like carries alive and stuff, like you're not pushing an end in with your buyback. Like you still got to like, that's the example I'm talking about. Like your buyback's a difference maker and you still need to fight to win. Um, anyways, I don't know. It's kind of inconclusive, to be honest. I
Well,
don't
I
think we
mean, it's
made
a
any.
situation by
Yeah.
situation basis. We talked in circles a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. A
but
little.
you mentioned like people being impatient. People are impatient a lot of the time in Dota these days. I mean, not even these days, just like all the
In
time
general.
when they're like pushing high ground, when they shouldn't.
Sure.
But there's been some impatience that I've noticed in a different breed of players, specifically mid players. And I feel like they're
Hey,
impatient
hey,
at learning to play mid properly, so they get freaky with it. Do
hey. Okay.
you know what I'm
I
talking about
actually,
here?
yes,
You want to elaborate a little bit on how freaky they are because
I
you're a
do.
mid player.
I understand. Yes. Well, this is just a trend that I've noticed recently. Just moving on from buybacks. Fuck buybacks. I'm done with it. I hate buyback.
Save for
Um,
buyback though.
yeah. Unless you're a freaky mid. But what I hate about
They
mid,
don't save for buyback.
I love the middle lane role. I love the middle lane role. Very fun, very enjoyable. Kill enemies, use your brain. But let me tell you, every other mid player, I swear to God, no one, all these other mids, all they want to do is freak on the other mid which is, like it's relatively relevant to like, it's good to own the other mid, of course. But the example that makes me think about this is I picked Ember Spirit second phase. This guy last picks Viper, not a good lane, right? And that's fine. Like you counterpicked me in lane. It's okay. But this guy also, we had like a really good team. Like Viper's good in isolated 1v1 scenarios, right? And
That's it.
yeah. I mean, he's useful, but he's good in isolated 1v1 scenarios and you can gank him. And like for this Viper should have built Mage Slayer. Like we had a bunch of magic damage, but this guy, we go even first off. Like we're both just like suffering. I'm suffering, but this guy also like forgot to hit creeps or something. So he's
That was
also
his
suffering
bad.
randomly.
That was weird. That
Like
shouldn't happen.
like what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
But then this guy
no room
builds,
again.
he's getting jumped by the whole enemy team. It's all magic damage, and he builds Orchid first and like chases me around. And then he just feeds. And like that's just, dude, like it's okay to like try to counter the enemy mid player, but I just think that one's too tunnel vision, because I had another example where I was Ember Spirit versus Storm, and it's a pretty volatile matchup where Storm can kill Ember a lot with Orchid, and it feels bad to have to buy the Yules. But I think Ember's really good into Storm in lane, and it's really good against Storm before the Orchid because Chains destroys Storm, and Storm doesn't build like BKB super late, and you don't buy like Yules or some shit. Anyways, but in that instance, I'm basing what I like. The reason why I'm like running at this Storm is because my hero like owns him based on like my spells and like what my hero does. Whereas this Viper owns me in isolated 1v1 scenarios, but Viper doesn't like catch Ember and kill him.
Yeah,
And then
he built out of his way to do that. But I
yeah,
mean,
and he didn't need to.
Yeah,
He needed Mage Slayer is what he needed.
I think when
live.
it comes, yeah, and it's too tunnel vision. When it comes
Yeah.
to the freaky mids, I would rather them pick like Viper. Some of the freakier mids are like a little bit harder to deal with, like OD or like Huskar. But
There was
Viper
another
is pretty
freaky
chill.
mid I
Viper
played against
feels
recently,
really
right?
squishy. What was it?
Oh, it was the
Sniper?
Bloodseeker. I was
Oh
Pango,
yeah,
and they
that
picked
was also
Bloodseeker.
weird. But I mean, so tunnel
he
visioning,
won.
when you're mid, like in theory, let's say you tunnel vision, and I've seen like pros do this, like specifically GPK versus Quinn, where you can tell he's like kind of playing to like counter Quinn. So I don't think it's bad
Sorta.
in a lot of game. Well, I remember a game specifically where he was like, he lost this game, but he was like only building items against Quinn. But in theory, this is the theory. If you like itemize to just kill the enemy, if you're mid and you itemize to kill the enemy mid from full to zero in a team fight, and you do that, it's successful every team fight. That's like a mid diff, and you did diff the guy, and if you just like full to zero him, then you did your job in the game better than he
well,
did.
That's okay. That's what's relevant
I played like Storm versus Ember.
Okay, but what is your job in the game is the question, right? What is your job in the game? Is it Viper's job in the game to catch Ember Spirit? No, it's not your job in the game to catch Ember Spirit, bro. Like, your job in the game is to win your lane and then build a bunch of items and be fucking Thanos and be unkillable.
Yeah, no, to be honest, Vipers that do well are like super tanky. Like you can't
exactly. They don't chase me around the map. They just farm, and they have Mage Slayer, Pike, and like 8 billion HP. And my hero Ember, like I don't do anything to Viper, right? So I think that's the skill of a mid laner that I enjoy. What makes a mid player a freaky mid player is they don't think about their role in the game, what their job and their hero does. Because sometimes, like in the Ember Spirit, Storm Spirit example, my job in this game, and it changes from time. Like once this Storm gets BKB, it's not my job to kill Storm. But before the BKB, it's my job to kill this Storm, get my supports to come to mid, gank this guy with chains. And I don't think the freaky mid players aren't thinking of that. They're not looking at all the heroes on the enemy team, their heroes on their team, who they can synergize with, and making their decisions informed based on that. They're just like, I'm going to build all items to counter this guy because he's the enemy mid. But if your other teammates deal with the enemy mid, or the enemy mid hero, like I'm Ember Spirit versus Viper, doesn't deal with you, why do you need a freak on that guy? Like, you won the lane, bro. Just farm. Just get bigger than him. So I think that's an important mid skill, is like understanding your role in the game, looking at the drafts, and like, because sometimes it's my job to freak on the enemy mid the whole game. Sometimes it's unplayable. Like if I'm Ember Spirit versus Viper, it's not my job to like build the counter Viper. Like I'm just gonna go side lane and kill like their squishy supports and stuff like that. So
that's another good point that we talked about this BSJ video off camera. But going side lane if your mid matchup is hard, or just like even a broader concept is like just avoiding the heroes that counter you on the map. It sounds really simple, but like in practice, if you keep track of their TPs, it like does wonders. It's really good.
Yeah, I actually have I was like watching one of my replays and taking notes, so it's relevant to this, avoiding your counters.
He's
But
a student of the game, everybody.
exactly. I was gonna make a joke, but I have nothing. But I'm a student of the game, sure. But if you're against counters, okay, this is like versus Meepo as like a mobility hero. But I think it's important at what like you avoid them on the map. Like here, or another example is on Pango versus Bloodseeker. All the Bloodseeker wants to do, the Bloodseeker hero doesn't do anything. If you're thinking, I'm thinking like mid Bloodseeker, okay, because these people always pick mid Bloodseeker when I pick Pango, and they just like follow you around, which
They
is
win,
all
right?
good. They sometimes. I don't think they should, but that's a whole nother
It requires
debacle
coordination on your team.
to defeat the Bloodseeker. Yeah, because
when you're
the
Pango.
reason why just to elaborate, the reason why I don't think it should win is if you think of Bloodseeker as a mid hero, this guy doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything a mid hero needs to do. All he does is like
He's
build
a
a
carry,
maelstrom.
right?
You just play carry. You play carry.
Yeah, it's literally carry.
Anyways,
Well, he can like run side lane and rupture, which is
but
like a little bit.
yeah, but like then
You
he's not
can do
rupturing
that.
me, and then I gotta play Dota 2.
Yeah.
So what happens is I try to gank his Pango, and then what he does, because he's trying to freak on me, and this is an example of kiting your counters on the map, is I go gank his side lane and I roll, and immediately as soon as I press roll, this guy TPs on the tower and presses rupture on my roll. Okay, and then he committed his TP.
You know why he picked Bloodseeker after that
Well
play? Yeah.
I'm ruptured, bro. But he committed his TP and I ran there. That's intentional, right? Because since he committed his TP, now I go to the opposite side of the map and I can play Dota 2.
Yeah, that's good.
Or
But you don't
another
have
example.
roll, Sag.
Yeah, it's but like whatever. Yeah, it's fine. If I have diffusal, that's another thing is like he counters roll, right? So in general, my game plan is to play on Swashbuckle instead, right?
Mhm.
And in this example where I was Pango versus Bloodseeker, we had Coddle. So my idea, it didn't work out. We lost. It wasn't because the matchup, to be honest, but
we lost 3 lanes that game as well. For
exactly.
some context, so it was just like really.
But yeah,
it's hard to play when you lose 3 lanes.
He counters roll, and you can apply this to other matchups. Like if he counters this aspect of my hero, I can use other aspects of my hero. I can still play on Swashbuckle Diffusal and just like poke their supports, and like 2 Swashbuckles kills a fucking support. That isn't like a strength support, right? So I can just play on that. I don't need to roll, and I can just wait.
Yeah.
If he's gonna hold rupture, I can hold roll. And let me tell you, like my hero is more useful than Bloodseeker if he's not like rupturing and killing me. Like he doesn't do anything. And then we lost. Anyways, freaky mid players. Yeah, like Pango, he picks Bloodseeker last.
I think what also makes freaky mid players is like
that guy's not playing Dota.
Yeah, well, they only play like these cheese heroes like OD, like Huskar, Viper, Sniper, and I've seen more and more of those these days. Maybe it's an NA thing. We play an NA, but like it feels like they're just playing a different game. They're playing like some cheese game. It's not like the Giga Chad like Quap or like even Puck is kind of cheesy, but I'll still like bucket Puck in with like the normal mid heroes. Although
it's
Puck's,
okay
like,
to pick those heroes though. To be fair,
Storm, Ember.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. It's okay to pick these heroes.
It's
and
freaky, is my point.
I don't think that's what makes it freaky though. What makes it freaky is like you don't play Dota 2. Because those heroes, to be fair, that's like what those heroes do. But yeah, like the example with the Viper, like that guy like you went too far, bro. Like building the Orchid and like all items to kill me, like you went too far. But I think it's what the hero does, right? It's a Dota 2 hero, so it's not like this guy's a freak for picking Huskar or whatever. That hero still has relevance. But the other thing when it comes to these freaky mid heroes, if you're a mid player and you're against, I actually don't mind playing against these heroes because those heroes don't do anything other than win lane. They don't do anything.
Times they're just so slow as well. I love playing against slow heroes on the map because you can just kite them around the map so easily. And also from a carry perspective, it makes my game so much easier because I know they're not gonna rotate.
Enemy mid's Viper, like you're
really overextend, or like OD or like Huskar. Like they're not TPing to my lane. They're not like coming to my lane unless they get a haste rune.
Yeah,
literally.
So
that's like
from the other mid pov, if you're against the Huskar or the OD, Huskar is different because Huskar farms fast. But you're still leaving mid, right? Like you can't stay mid versus Huskar if you're like Ember Spirit.
About it.
But I watched a BSJ video. This was I think it's kind of an old one, but it was Samael.
Slam Judas.
Yeah, exactly. My savior. Okay. I was gonna go.
I want you to continue that.
No, yeah,
no.
My savior BSJ. Yeah, exactly. But it was Samael Lesh versus Bane, Thompson Bane. And Bane, it reminds me of OD. Bane's like OD to a certain extent. I mean, he like puts you in the nightmare and denies creeps, right? But the point being is that if you leave mid, yeah, it doesn't feel great. Like you'd rather farm mid, but Bane doesn't accelerate. Odie doesn't accelerate. They don't jungle. They don't do anything. All it does is sit mid and beat you. So just leave, right?
Yeah.
He can't do anything. He's not going to accelerate. This is why I said Huskar is different, because Huskar can like tank ancients or take ancients and like accelerate, but you don't stop that, right? So you should still leave mid. But that's why I like playing against these heroes, because like I'm Ember Spirit versus Viper. I just rush phase boots and I'm gone. I'm gone.
Yeah. It feels like once you have that realization, it's like night and day. Because before, if you did,
Yeah.
like your game's just gonna be miserable. It also takes more nuance to like, make a game for yourself when you leave, but I think another key point is like collect the bounty runes and just like farm your way toward
exactly. That's what I was
ganks.
going to talk
That
about.
makes it easy to play off the map.
Yeah.
Or off the
Yeah.
mid lane.
You want to just not play on the mid lane, and the way to do that, and I can expand this to other roles than mid, because, you know, maybe people, like, not everyone's a mid player, so you want to understand how this is for your role. I think it's a plague in
Everyone
general.
should be a mid player, though. That might be another
Exactly.
topic we can talk about.
Wait, actually, I'm okay. Yeah, give me a sec. But mid propaganda. But I think this is what a plague is that everyone just sits in their lane that they start in. Like supports just stay in their lane the whole game. You know, people don't rotate around, and you just don't have to do that. Like supports, it's weird because you would think supports want to farm, but supports rarely come mid. If I leave, a lot of the times why I don't leave mid is because nobody comes mid to take the farm. Guys, I don't want to be mid. Somebody farm mid, okay? And it's always you. But like,
yeah, this feels good. If I have a bad lane on carry, like I go mid,
but
I
like
just camp there.
like
Mid's such
anyone
a
wants
nice
some
lane
farm,
to farm
like my
too.
Rubik.
The
Rubik,
lane's
you want
short,
some
I'm
farm?
gonna just like aggro the creeps. It's pretty free.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say is, yeah, people just sit in their lane. Like you can come back mid if I'm not, like, let's say I'm against a counter and I don't want to play mid. You can come back mid for the runes. But what I'm saying is I can't like sit mid 1v1 on the wave. So and this is also just a point when it comes to making plays in general. To make plays less committal, you don't want plays to sacrifice your efficiency. So how do we not sacrifice our efficiency? We farm towards plays that we want to do, and if it doesn't work out, then I was farming, right? So I was learning a lot about Storm. I was watching like Makoto Storm replays, and I was trying to learn Storm. And one thing I noticed is when he's behind, he farms defensively towards lanes he wants to gank, right? So like a lot of times, like even if he's like giga behind, it's like, dude, he's hitting the small camp next to his safe lane, and then he ganks the guy, and he like goes back and like farms a bounty rune, and he's still right there. Like if the guy TP's back, you can come again. And if you're ahead, you can go through the enemy's jungle and farm their camps towards lanes you want to do. And a lot of like lower MMR mid players, they just like run straight from mid to the lane and sit in the trees the whole time. Like farm there, bro.
Yeah.
And like collect the bounty runes and shit. So that's why, like, exactly, if you're against these counters, like just I just like rush some boots, you just bounty rune collector, farm some camps on the way, and your game is totally chill.
This is also applicable to carry and off lane for the non-mid players watching. You just farm your way toward like plays in general, or as carry specifically, if you want to fight and you're farming, just farm your way toward your team.
And
so
you could
if the case that the fight breaks out, you're there to help out.
You can make this even more general. The more general takeaway is, if you want to make plays, farm towards where you want to play, and if you don't, farm away from things, right?
Yeah. But unless you're a support, don't hit the jungle. You should be probably like setting up to make plays.
Depends on your hero.
You could hit the jungle sometimes.
If you're Chen, hit up the jungle, bro.
I mean,
the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and your team's like setting up plays and you're a support, and it's like, wait, guys, I'm in our triangle and I'm farming to the play. I'll be there in like 40 seconds.
Yeah, you can sacrifice a little bit of efficiency. But the point, exactly, when it comes to that, the point is that you want to farm in proximity to areas that you want to play. The reason why that's bad is you're in the triangle and the play's not in the, like, there, right? I'm not farming the triangle on the way to the play as Storm Spirit. I'm farming like the enemy medium camp next to the bounty rune.
That's
next
also
to the safe
extra good on Storm because he's like elusive. He can get out, so you take super aggressive farm.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not sacrificing value.
I see that on Quinn Lesh as well. Like when he's ahead, he goes through the enemy jungle and farms it, because when you're playing the enemy side of the map, we talked about Monkey King on the last podcast. Support Monkey King.
Check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yes, and a big thing about that is you get to play on the enemy side of the map because Mischief, you can go through towers, etc. And something that makes it so relevant is that when you play the enemy side of the map, your proximity to the enemy's lanes is closer than if you're running through your map. If you think like, okay, I'm mid and I want to run through my jungle to my safe lane, that's way longer than if I'm running through their triangle to the safe lane. It's like right there. or sorry, to the off lane. It's right there. Obviously, if you're running through their jungle, it's a little longer, but you're also like in aggressive space, and you're looking to fight, and you're in aggressive space, right? So that's really good.
Yeah. Our next
Yeah.
topic on the Mid Player Podcast. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, what were we even saying? We said that it was about like everyone should be a mid player. I think that's actually.
Yeah. No, I
that's actually
genuinely think that every Dota player should like learn mid.
Play mid.
Like, learn mid because the mechanics.
You don't need to be a mid main.
Yeah,
like,
you just need to learn to play because the mechanics are the most or like you get punished the most when you play mid for bad laning skills. And laning skills are like
you
just as applicable in the other lanes. Yeah, and you can't cope. There's nobody to blame.
It's your bad.
It's all you. Bad. You need to last hit the creeps well, and you need to learn to manage the wave well. And I feel like so many people are like afraid of playing mid because they think they're bad at it or something. Yes. Were you saying like
here we go.
Caster? We shouldn't name any casters.
Okay, I won't name him.
Unnamed caster.
I was watching Elite League. Okay, that's the tournament going on right now. But one of the casters, yeah, my bad. One of the casters said they made like some joke about the other caster being a mid player, and the caster goes, "I wish, bro." Just play mid, like I wish. And he's like, it sounds so fun. You get the bounty or you get the runes and you like make plays happen, but I just can't play mid. Like I hate.
To be fair to this person, it is like
it's hard.
Kind of a different skill set, and
it is.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say it's like harder, but it's just different and it's a lot more punishing. But it's not, I don't think, as intimidating as everybody thinks. And I think if you cannot hold your own playing mid, that's a red flag that you need to.
It's a red flag that you bad lane. Bro. You bad lane.
Yeah,
bro.
You bad lane. Even if you play support, like you should have good lane mechanics. Just in
general,
you should know how to manage a wave.
Dude, it's a plague on support players. Okay, to be honest, I was playing Earth Spirit support recently, and I did this, but like, it's a plague when you're bad at last hitting on support because you get less opportunities to last hit. So like, you get that one wave mid. True. We're making that cash. It's a flag bearer, and you miss all 4 creeps. Like. You lost the game.
I feel like on support a lot of the time those opportunities will be like under the tower too, which makes it like extra hard to last hit.
Yes, you got 20 damage.
Yeah.
You literally have no damage. Like, you need to last hit that shit, bro.
There's a big correlation between when I'm playing support and if I get a pull off, okay, and it's really early, like 2 to 3 minutes, and if I last hit the creeps in the jungle when I like the pull creeps, then I win much more often. Or like if I miss a few of those creeps, which it happens.
Because you're gonna win your lane as well. You're gonna buy stuff for your lane.
Yeah, exactly. But the little gold makes a much bigger difference on support because your overall net worth is lower, so it's a higher percentage increase. It's just so big, and gold snowballs. So if you miss those like early creeps, they matter. Every single last support matters.
Just to call out my friend really quick, I'm not gonna name him, but this was a while back. He's not a mid player. No. Yeah. Anyways, so there's this guy named Krabby.
It's a carry player.
Yeah, this guy's a no. No, it's not. It's like I won't expose his roles, but he's not a mid player. He's not a carry player. And his laning mechanics are pretty poor. And it's like, oh, he wants to improve, and it's like, oh, like I remember he got stuck on a mid game, and he was playing silencer mid like a freak versus Shadow Fiend. Okay, and the Shadow Fiend starts Necromastery.
Shadow Fiend's like a sweaty mid player.
Exactly,
too, like,
but this guy also he starts Necromastery. He starts Necromastery, and he gets 4 denies on the first wave, bro.
Yeah, no, that's
what are you doing, man? That's like, tough. What are you like? And then it's like, and then you're like, oh, how can I improve? You need to kill the creeps, man. You're like, what are we talking about? Like,
to learn to manage.
That's why mid is so good. Is it exposes your flaws as a laner. And the other thing that I really like, this is a big reason why or how you and me improved, is get a friend in 1v1. It sounds intimidating. Drop the ego. You lose the 1v1. It's all good, guys. Like, dude beat you in the 1v1. I remember it's easy to be like, it sounds stupid, but like it's easy to be intimidated by like the 1v1s.
No, that helps so much because you're isolating like a specific part of the game. And if you just work on that like over and over again, you improve much faster. Because how much time in a Dota game do you spend laning? Like, I don't know, 10-20%. But if you like only do these 1v1s, and even though it's a 1v1 mid, it applies to like all the roles. It's just like how you manage a wave and how you CS, like you can even play your like carry heroes or offlane heroes mid when you 1v1 them. Like, just practice and get comfortable. Yeah. Drills are so powerful, but nobody does it in Dota.
Drills are so powerful. CS trainer as well.
I remember back in the day. I feel like that era when we were 1v1ing was an era where I like it was one of the eras where I
Improved the
improved the
most.
most for sure. And
Yes.
it'd be like 4 a.m. We're like hitting up the lobby like
Yes.
1v1ing.
It's dude,
Everyone on
it's
our friends
fun.
was
It's
just like, what are
so
these
fun.
fucking guys doing?
And something that's really nice. I mean, you can spam the same matchups as well. Like if you have a friend, you guys like play your best heroes or something, or you want to learn new heroes. But this is another thing that 1v1s teach you. Besides, like, okay, well, first off, it's easy to think that laning is removed from the rest of the game, right? But what makes you a good laner? You could like go into the specifics of like, oh, like pulling or like all this shit or like having an idea of the lane. But I think what makes you a good laner, what's the purpose of laning? You and the opponent are both in this area and you're trying to accumulate resources. So if you're a stronger laner, you're better at getting the resources in this area. That lasts for the entire game. You're going to be contested by enemy heroes. You want to get more resources. You want to deny them resources. Like you're just a force on the map,
Yeah.
right? If you're a weak laner, then you're not getting the resources there. They're fucking kicking your ass. Like you stink, man.
I
You need
remember
to,
on a Quinn stream, he was talking about a realization, or CCNC. I guess he goes by Quinn now. A realization he had
Sure.
when he was like having a conversation with Sumail. This was a lot of years ago before he was like goat status. Now he's like kind of goat status. But
Yeah.
and he was like kind of vague about it on purpose. Quinn is like really secretive about like his mid alpha for like whatever reason that he like.
He is.
I mean,
He
he
is.
does know things that like people don't know. But I mean, I understand it. Like
It would
I'm
help his
sure.
opponents, to be honest.
Yeah, no,
but
exactly. If he like said some stuff on stream, like somebody clips it, sends it to GP Keck, and then it's like
he's
hard.
like he's like, you gotta last hit the creeps. GBK's like,
It's like, really? No, wait, but unironically, the realization that Quinn was talking about with it, he was saying with Sumail, he was having a conversation with Sumail. And again, this was vague, but it was like about the creeps. He implied that it was to put more priority on the creeps. Because
it's all
like you
about the
said, you're
creeps.
contesting like those resources. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I think another thing that I really like about the 1v1 training is that it really makes you value the individual. This is also like a mid thing because you're rushing your bottle a lot of times on mid laners, and it makes you realize how important each creep is. You miss one or two creeps in the first two waves. That's the difference between getting your bottle at 130 before the runes and getting it at
Yeah.
230. And it snowballs because like then I don't have my bottle, and then the next waves are shit. Exactly. Or another thing that I really like about 1v1s is it makes you, not only does it make you realize how important each creep is, but then the way you spend that gold is so important. The difference between me buying raindrops versus stick versus rushing boots in certain lanes is so impactful where, and like, because we would do like Pango versus Storm, etc. And like the order of items that you purchase matters so much. And I think that mid makes you really realize this. Like,
Yeah.
okay, raindrops is
lanes,
such a
it
huge...
matters a lot too.
Exactly, it does, but they don't think about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like spending even 150 gold on a wand recipe makes like a 20-30 second difference in getting your power treads or phase boots. It's like,
or if I buy
so
wand
important.
or I buy stick in a lane where stick isn't good, like for example mid, like if I buy raindrops, that's such a huge power spike versus certain heroes. Like I'm against like Wind Ranger or something, like that's massive compared to like stick. Okay, but again, maybe against like other heroes, like against Storm, I love to buy stick.
Yeah. You
And
not buy
like
stick against Wind Ranger? You don't go both?
I do later. Yeah, I do later. But Wind doesn't spam like multiple spells a wave. Usually, it's like one power shot.
Yeah, that's true.
And it does so much damage.
It's like
as well.
mid-range value getting the stick.
Okay, each stick charge gives you like 15 health and mana or some shit like that,
Yeah,
right? Like
well, you're dodging
if you get power
shots. You're weaving. You're
stacking it up. But if you think of that compared to like PA, where like a dagger does like 50 damage, like your base, like the dagger wasn't worth giving you a stick charge. That's why it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Whereas like I would rather have raindrops. Or another small item that I buy a lot is Blightstone on Pango. Like if I'm against Puck, like fuck the stick, because Puck doesn't pressure that hard and doesn't spam that much. It still spams, and I'll buy stick later. But this is exactly what I mean. The order of items is so relevant. Like buying the stick before the Blightstone is relevant. You might think it's a small deal, but like having that Blightstone on my level 3 timing with level 2 swash is huge versus Puck, who's a 0 armor hero level 1. And
so it makes a difference in delaying that, right?
Exactly.
The Blightstone's a lot more. It's not that the stick is bad. It's that the Blightstone is just a lot better.
I want that
more valuable.
First.
You want that ASAP.
Like I also like raindrops versus Puck, but I don't like raindrops first versus like Puck isn't killing you in lane, man. Like, right? So you don't need raindrops. But I'm down for raindrops like when Puck is like level 5, level 6, level 7, and like I could die to ganks. But yeah, so mid 1v1s are really good. They're really, really good, guys. And like
in side
it's
lanes
fun.
too, like the order, if you're building like power treads, it's a popular item. The order of the components of the treads matters a lot
Exactly.
based on
Yep.
what you need in mid
Yeah, you can't
1v1
just waste
situations like that.
gold. You can't just shit. I queued up 13 items and then I have 1,000 gold and I'm like bing
Yeah.
bing 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 spamming my like buy button and I just buy a bunch of bullshit.
I
Like,
think we have
dude.
to 1v1 live right now. That would be
Okay, yeah, let's
sick.
go. Uh,
That'd be fire.
no, that would be. We used to do side lane 2v2s with a couple
We
of our
did that
other
like
friends.
once. That was really
Dude, it
base.
was so
But
based.
it was a
Oh
little
my
bit
god.
unbalanced skill wise.
It
We
was
didn't
so
have
unbalanced,
four
dude. I
like
was with
high
anyways.
skill.
No flame, no flame.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh no. The guy who I was playing with was like I enjoy playing with them, but like the MMR was not balanced. Let's just say that we got
Yeah.
our ass kicked. We were also playing like the most disturbing weak lane. We were like Sand King Spirit, and you guys are like Chen something,
It's
like
Chen
Slark or
Ursa.
something. Like
Chen
what is
Slark.
that?
Oh no, it was
Like
Slark. I
how
remember.
my clan? I'm pulling waves in the 2v2. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking terrible.
Yeah.
CS Trainer as well is another huge one. I also saw who was talking about this. Somebody was talking about how like not that you should play custom games, but custom games help too. Just like if you not like don't queue up
Depends on the
custom
custom game.
no, but you're still operating in the Dota. Like if you weren't gonna play Dota, that was better than not playing Dota.
Oh
right? Like,
yeah,
you're
okay,
still,
true. In terms of like improvement.
yeah, you're still
I
operating.
really like
yeah,
Dota
go ahead.
1v6 for a custom game.
That's
That like
something
really
that
helps
made
you
me.
improve. That's
That's
similar
where
to
I.
like mid 1v1s where you like
Yes, exactly.
it's all on you. You
Go
can't
ahead.
blame
Yeah,
anybody
yeah, yeah.
else.
Yeah,
That's
you're
important.
responsible for every aspect of the game. You have to ward. You have to you think about your timings. You determine when you're going to smoke and gank, or if it's hurting your efficiency, etc. I really like Dota 1x6, and Dota 1x6 is what gave me the idea about being a force in an area and accumulating resources because you get contested a lot by other guys in Dota 1x6, like on these high grounds and stuff, and like over the camps, and it's a huge deal to threaten these other guys and kick them out of areas and be more efficient in areas and take their farm, etc. And that's just a mark of being a high skilled Dota player. Is like being difficult to deal with in an area, accumulating a lot of resources when you're in an area, not dying to stuff when you're in an area. This is also important.
It ties
And it
into like
sounds
being comfortable
obvious.
in the engine as well, just like being comfortable
Exactly.
moving and knowing like what is good for your
Yeah.
hero, what your hero does.
Something.
I wanted to ask you
Okay,
about
go ahead.
CS Trainer though, unless
Yeah.
did you have something else you
That's
wanted
what I
to
was going to
say?
talk about, but do you
Oh,
have a
okay.
question about it?
Yeah, my question was, do you like feel a difference when you do it
Yes.
versus don't?
I'm using this
interesting.
thing called Training Polygon. I
That's
don't
the one with
use
the sniper, right?
That's the one with the
Where it's
sniper that
last name. It's
denies
like a
you. It's a
sniper
little
bot that's
buggy.
like denying you.
Yeah, it's a little buggy. Sometimes
pretty
it hits early, but I really like that because there's the other like last hit trainer built in by Dota, and that. But like when I do that after doing like the one against the sniper bot, it denies you and stuff. And another nice thing is it shows you your delay after the last hit. So it's like cool, you got the last hit, but you had like a 0.3 second delay, and your goal is to like have 0, right? And I felt the difference a lot because I play a lot of melee heroes, so I felt there was a lot more delay on ranged heroes because I wasn't autoing early.
Yeah, that direct feedback is probably really good. Because
Yeah,
I
it's
use
really
just
good.
the default Dota like CS trainer and it doesn't tell you delay or anything. But what I like about that, I mean, I guess it's the same in the sniper one, is you never like level up and you don't skill anything
Yeah,
level 1. So
you
it's
level
just
up
like
anyway.
4 first waves on repeat.
Exactly.
And the first wave is like the
Yeah.
most important, obviously, because
The
everything
reason
snowballs.
the reason I
But
like
getting
Okay,
the
go
like
ahead.
delay like instantly based on how much you missed it by seems pretty impactful. Maybe I'll start doing that.
Yeah, no. The other thing I really like about it, this is like a huge deal to me, and this relates to like you can do this in any lane, but you can aggro off the sniper bot, right? So you can manipulate which creeps are dying first, because a huge deal in lanes, right? If 2 of your creeps are dying at the same time, you can't get them both without a nuke, right?
Yeah.
Or if I want to contest his deny and my last hit, I want the creeps to die at different times.
Yeah, it's about like recognizing that situation like many times over the long term, and then once you get in that situation in a game, it's really easy to just like solve it. But if that situation comes up in a game, it's easy in retro, like the creeps die and you're like, oh, that happened and you didn't get both. But if you've been through like the training multiple times, it's really easy to identify, and it's almost like second nature for you to address it.
And there's the other side of that where like a lot of times this is I always say this is a mid thing, guys. I play mid, but so that's what like that's the context I'm looking at it in. I like watch the Sumail replay, so this is what I was. And people, dude, every time I make a point, I always think that like people in the comments will be like, "This is so obvious." I do this every game in fucking Herald.
I feel like a lot of people are just prone to say that in Dota, but the truth is Dota is a lot of like obvious things put together.
Exactly, doing
it's hard to
something
apply
being
a lot of the obvious things because In Dota, you get tunnel visioned a lot, and you make stupid decisions, even if you know
People
better.
say
You
it's
still make them.
obvious, and it's just it's not insightful at all, because if you watch a pro player, everything looks obvious because it's right. Why would the right thing look not obvious?
Yeah,
Right?
it's like looking at the answer key to like a physics test or a math
Exactly. Like,
test
oh,
or
that was
something
obvious.
before
Or like,
when you're studying for
yeah,
a test, like, oh yeah, like this logic makes sense, but you can't
exactly.
produce it
Exactly.
yourself.
But if like what I was gonna say is that making creeps die at the same time, like enemy creeps can die at the same time because then they have to choose, right? Like that's a huge one is under tower. Let's say there's like a creep that's low and the tower's focusing a different one. Maybe I right click the creep early that's low to put it into
Yeah,
one
that's
hit of
good.
last hit range, and then he hits that, and then I deny the creep getting hit by a tower,
Uh-huh.
or something like that. And
Manipulating the way through
another
denies.
another really important point. This is just an important mental shift for me, but like everyone should apply this. Is you need to have more intent in lane and recognize that what's happening in the lane, the creeps dying, etc., isn't out of your control. You can choose, because aggro exists. You can choose which creep dies when, right? So I remember I had a game where like if you go into the lane with the mental that like I'm just gonna like chill and like get some creeps, maybe your hero is weak and you need to do that, but like the mental of like I'm just gonna chill and like exist and the creeps will die and I'll last hit them. Like no, you're choosing when the creeps
Yeah,
die.
you need to
If
be proactive.
Exactly, like let's say like, oh, the guy walks away from the lane to like go on your support, you can aggro right then
You
on the
manipulate
range,
that
kill
shit.
ranged.
Manipulate the wave.
Exactly. You can choose when stuff dies, when it lives, you can aggro off, etc. So you need to go into these lanes with way more intent. Like a classic example in mid is like I aggro onto my range creep and then they run forward and then I like press flame guard and aggro off the range creep and like beat his ass, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's like running forward to like last hit the range creep. Like I choose, he walked up because I made him walk up, and I did that because I know flame guard hit that guy, like get fucked. It's like puck or something, right? Um, so you need to go in these lanes with a lot more intent,
You
and
need to
not
go into the lanes, viewer.
you got
You do. Not us. We do it perfectly. You
go
do.
into lane and deny. But yeah, you can choose when stuff dies, and it's not just like you're not just waiting for the creeps to die. You're choosing what's dying on both sides, your creeps and their
Yeah.
creeps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When at the highest level, like you're both fighting over choosing. Like you're both trying to take
exactly. It's a
control
bunch
in
of
that way. And that
baits,
way.
and this is what I've been doing recently that I really enjoy. Is I'll just play CS trainer. Like if I don't want to play Dota, but I'm just like because Dota's not a good background activity. It's hard to like if
No,
some
you
friends
need
want
to
to like
fully
chat.
commit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If some friends want to chat and like hang out in Discord, this is for me. It depends on what you're optimizing for. If you're playing casually, it's all good. But I don't like playing Dota and like chatting in Discord and being distracted.
Yeah. Same.
So I'll be in Discord chatting and like with my homies and they're like doing
You're in
homework or
CS
something or
trainer.
playing games, and I will just turn on music and CS trainer for 30 minutes in the background while I'm like in Discord. It's a lot of fun.
No, that's
So
fire. Because
yeah,
it
you can
kind
do
of
stuff
like
like that.
puts
It's
like
really good.
CSing into your subconscious mind as well. You know,
I
you're
also
just
have
like
like my
getting better at it,
playlist, and I feel
getting
like
more competent.
I feel like I'm like mentally like training myself to like CS better to these songs, right? So like I'll play the same songs when
You're
I'm
priming your
laning.
brain to enter the
No,
flow state
exactly,
with the
exactly,
songs.
exactly.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
actually a
yeah.
thing with the flow state. You like prime your brain.
Exactly.
If
No,
you
no,
guys
no.
didn't know, I'm the flow state goat. I read a couple
Yeah, he
books about
is.
it. So
Yeah.
every Dota game
So
I
he
try to
he
flow.
enters it on command. All right. So yeah,
Yes.
that's what I had
Anyway,
about
we're
it.
gonna wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to say? You just said that, so I'm assuming there's not. Where can the viewers find you?
Pine Dota 2 on Twitch.
He
It
streams
used to be
every
Pine.
day for 10 hours.
Yes, exactly.
Grappa.
Top of the Dota thing. It's like Gork, Quakeva, me, ESL1 Dota. So you'll find me
Then
there.
Arteezy
Yeah,
below that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
You
So
can
you can find
find
me
me
there.
right here on this channel. I'm on Twitter as well at Krabby Dota 2, but I don't tweet very much right now. But I hope you enjoyed
Yeah,
this episode, and we'll see you next time. And we have a special guest coming, hopefully. I say that I haven't even
hopefully.
asked them. But
You say that like every episode. It's complete bait.
yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not this time though. But
There might be a special guest, guys.
if you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Thank you.